Hi everybody, I figured it was time we found out a little bit more what happened to Hiccup and Toothless in How to Train Your Dragon. In fact, Toothless ate pretty much anything, but even he drew the line at baby dragons who thought you were their father. However, from Toothless's perch, he had a great view out of one of the high windows. Through the window, he caught sight of a red dragon flying towards the house, still some distance away. Fireworm. Fireworm would take care of the problem. You see, Fireworm was a monstrous nightmare and did not suffer from any of Toothless's rare qualms of conscience, and she would gobble up 3 insufferably cute little dragons in less time than it took a dragon to scratch its own ear. The cuter the better, as far as Fireworm was concerned. Toothless grinned. She was definitely flying their way, probably hoping that Stoic had left some tidbits over from breakfast. Toothless settled down more comfortably on the roof beam to wait for her to show up. Wouldn't be his fault if Fireworm decided to eat them, would it? The moment that Fireworm set eyes on those babies, they would be doomed. I'm sorry, it doesn't seem a very good moment, but we'll have to just leave those babies in awful peril, about to be eaten up by Fireworm, while we return to catch up with what was happening with Hiccup and the hooligans. Because they were in trouble too, you see. Dreadful, ghastly trouble. Trouble too nasty to even think about, let alone tell. The hooligans were aboard their ships, and the ships were already out in the bay, carrying out Stoic's clever and intelligent plan. They were advancing on that great, grim underwater shadow, banging on their shields with their axes to shoo away this terrible beast. Even the bravest of hooligans, magnificent warriors like that gormless, muscly giant, Gobber the Belch, were terrified and white to the lips. All of their senses told them to go back, to run away from that darkness under the waves, and not to go nearer. Go back! But hunger had made them desperate. So they forced their quaking, hairy arms to row towards the dreadful shadow. They made their poor, exhausted limbs bash those axes weakly on those shields, and ordered their poor, shaking feet to drum out a pathetic human warning to mighty, pitiless horror that was lurking under the water. It was very, very brave of those hooligans. It was also extremely stupid. Hiccup and Fishlegs were aboard Stoic's ship, the Fat Penguin. Fishlegs was trembling all over, his legs shivering uncontrollably as if he had caught some feverish plague. He had his eyes closed in the useless and pathetic hope that if he couldn't see what was happening, maybe he wasn't really there. He tried to bash his axe on his shaking shield, moaning, "Oh, this noise isn't helping my headache one bit." Fishlegs laughed, but the laugh grew out of control and became a bit hysterical. "What's going on, Hiccup? Has the Dreader sucked out anybody's heart or removed their head yet?" Not yet," replied Hiccup cautiously. He, too, was pale as death, heart beating so quick he felt sick with the pulse of it. This was going to be a really unpleasant way to die. And then, in front of Hiccup's terrified eyes, a miracle happened. "Hang on a second," panted Hiccup in joyous astonishment. "I don't believe it! It's turning! It's moving away!" And so it seemed. The dark shape uncurled its serpentine coils from around the island. It moved away, out into the sea that was Woden's bathtub, and as it moved, the famished Vikings could hardly believe their luck. Terror turned to hope in an instant. The hope gave strength in their arms, and they increased their banging on the shields and let out a ragged hooligan hurrah as they saw themselves being able to fish for food for the first time in many, many weeks. "Bring out the nets!" bellowed Stoic, the keen to be vast again, red with relief. "Thank Thor!" For one horrible moment he had thought perhaps his plan hadn't been such a good one after all. He shook his sword and patted his empty belly. "You see, Hiccup," flushed and beaming with triumph, Stoic turned to his son. "The plan is working, my boy." He patted Hiccup kindly on the head. "Watch and learn, Hiccup laddie, watch and learn. My clever and intelligent plan is working. Thinking skills, you see. Brain power." Stoic tapped his hairy head importantly, and then roared to the Viking warriors in relieved joy. "There will be feasting tonight! By the stomach juices of Thor, there will, my fellow hooligans!" But who would be feasting on whom? Sometimes we rejoice too soon, brothers and sisters. Sometimes we rejoice too soon, and we forget we are not safe until we reach the shore or the end of the story, whichever is nearer. It seemed that the hooligans had rejoiced too soon, for slowly, slowly, the shadow that had been moving away, like a departing underwater battleship, slowly, slowly came to a halt. Slowly, slowly, the shadow turned again. It turned to face the hooligan fleet. Stoic was not what you might call a lightning thinker, but even he realized that this was not good news. His mouth dropped open. Uh-oh. And the hooligan hurrah died on famished lips, and all around the ships the hooligans stopped banging on their shields, and the noise came to a confused halt as their poor weakened arms were frozen with terror. All except for Fishlegs, who banged away more shakily than ever, squeaking, "Why are they stopping, Hiccup? Why are they stopping?" "Actually, don't tell me. I don't want to know." Hiccup, peering out into the darkness, swallowed hard, though his mouth had no moisture, for it was dry as dust. "Don't open your eyes yet, Fishlegs," was all he said. The shadow was moving. Oh no, it was huge! It was moving, moving, and the darkened sea swelled up and began to surge towards them like a tidal wave. But it wasn't a tidal wave at all. It was the Dreader. There was a dreadful, ghastly silence, and then the hooligans lost it. Relief turned back to terror again in an instant. They forgot their empty bellies and their pride and their clever and intelligent plan. All they saw was the shadow, that hole in the water that they filled up with their worst, their darkest, their most terrible fears. And then, "Make for the shore!" bellowed Stoic the Vast, and they hauled on the sail like wild things, trying to change direction and go back to the harbour, for the wind was carrying them straight into the path of the charging beast. Only Fishlegs banged away madly at his shield, eyes tight shut, shouting, "Don't tell me what is happening! Don't tell me what's happening!" But Hiccup couldn't have told him what was happening anyway. Hiccup, you see, had forgotten the promise he had made his father. He was already leaning over the side of the boat, shouting at the Dreader in the water, the shadow that was gaining on them. Just to make things even worse, the wind had died. The sail was flapping and sagging uselessly as the Dreader stormed towards them. It was as if they were in one of those bad dreams in which you are being chased, but you cannot move your legs. The boat was stuck to the ocean like a fly to fly paper. The Vikings blundered towards their oars, roaring in terror, pushing each other over in their panic. Hiccup leaned as far as he could over the side of the boat. "What do you want?" shouted Hiccup at the Dreader in Dragonese. "How can I help you?" The tiny words were snatched by the wind the moment they left Hiccup's mouth. Snatched and tossed away as the depression in the water deepened and gained and the wind screamed louder. Hiccup had to get close to this dragon so that he could speak to it. He just had to. Thinking of nothing but getting near enough so his voice could be heard, Hiccup climbed the slippery dragon figurehead of the boat, his hands sliding on the cold wet wood, the wind tearing manically at his clothes and his hair. "What do you want?" screamed Hiccup, louder still. "Please don't take our heads, or our blood, or our hearts. What do you want?" And then, right in front of Hiccup's terrified gaze, two enormous eyes rose to the surface, but did not break the water. "Ah!" shrieked Hiccup, as to his absolute horror his hand slid on the wooden dragon's head. He couldn't keep his grip. He was going to fall into the sea, into the path of that dreadful creature. He fell, and the back of his waistcoat caught on the edge of one of the figurehead's teeth, so he hung there, dangling and scrabbling wildly in front of the advancing dreader, like a fish on a hook. "Oh, for goodness' sake!" shrieked a voice in Hiccup's head. "I'm going to be the first to go." He braced himself for the dreader's attack. The mouth broke the water, and the creature screamed as if it was in pain. The wind from its inhaling mouth sucked the boat towards it, despite the Vikings desperately paddling with all the strength of their hungry limbs. The inhaled scream of that dreader made the head ring from the inside, as if it was a bell being rung by Thor's hammer. But it seemed to Hiccup like that weird, terrible scream contained half-formed words in a very ancient Dragonese indeed, and the words were, "You stole my future." Maybe that wasn't what the words were, and maybe it was. They were so unformed it was hard to say. But on the final shrieking syllable the sucking in ceased, and the creature exhaled, and Hiccup's last thought was, "Here we go. The dreader's going to use its power now." And there was a truly ear-splitting noise, a horrible choking yank at Hiccup's neck. "I'm going to die," thought Hiccup, and everything went black. Doesn't sound like it's going very well for Hiccup and his dad. We'll have to read a little bit more soon and find out what happens next. Hope you're all safe at home, and I'm missing you all. Looking forward to seeing you all soon. Bye!